Hey there, and welcome to the briefing room. I'm ABC News political director Rick Klein, joined here by Justin Fischel and Mary Alice Parks. And guys, we got a lot going on for a summer Friday. Yeah. The president isn't in town, but there's a lot going on right here in Washington. This weekend marks the anniversary of the Unite the Right rally down in Charlottesville, Virginia. Virginia's already declared a state of emergency, and there is an anniversary rally and a counter-protest that is planned for right here, literally in the White House's backyard. The president won't be here for it, but it is shaping up like a pretty major moment for President Trump and his leadership.
And the president over the last year hasn't dialed back his racially divisive tone. He's often talking on those terms, often dividing the country, and criticized for it, but not backing down. And I think that if anything, in the last year, we've seen him double down on that kind of rhetoric.
And it's also preseason football time, which means we go back to the anthem controversy, and he's tweeting about that. And now he's saying these players who are protesting don't know what they're protesting. They don't know what they stand for, which is kind of really ratcheting up that attack. But, you know, just a few weeks ago, he was out there explaining exactly what they were protesting, racial injustice, and he was offering to pardon their friends, if you remember that whole incident. So seems a little disingenuous to claim that they don't know what they're protesting.
And it is a year since the now infamous appearance at Trump Tower when he talked about both sides and very fine people on both sides. Literally inexplicable in that he still hasn't explained exactly what he meant by that moment. He hasn't had a repeat of that, but as you guys mentioned, there's been so many instances where he's showed where his feelings are on issues that are very racially polarizing. Just last week with LeBron James and Don Lemon, his continual attacks on Maxine Waters' IQ.
He's made Maxine Waters into some villain for his base. The amount of times people that are his ardent supporters bring up her name, you know, a prominent African-American congresswoman who, sure, disagrees with him, but he goes after her in a way that is astounding.
And of course, the White House says, just so we're clear, he goes after anybody who goes after him. That's always sort of been his line. He's an equal opportunity attacker.
And in setting up this weekend, I do want to share this. This is a pretty interesting interview, series of interviews that Heather Heyer's mother, Susan Bro, gave to ABC News. This is what she said to Eva Pilgrim earlier today.
This is the root of the problem, is that we've always acted as if people of color, particularly black lives, have never mattered in this country, starting with the genocide of Native Americans and moving right on through to slavery and beyond. And until we acknowledge that and try to make some reparation for that, I don't see how we as a country can move forward. We've got to heal the wounds that are so deep and so nasty and so infected. If we try to rush and heal it over and everybody just shake hands and get along, then we've solved nothing.
And you're also seeing the mayor of Charlottesville talk directly about the president and his leadership. He is a central player in this weekend's events, whether or not he's anywhere near it or whether or not he tweets about it.
And I was struck a little further in that interview. She says that she doesn't want people to stay home and be quiet, that gives voice to the other side. She called for people to be firm but peaceful in their counter demonstrations. And
we should just note that the tweets about the NFL taking on what happened last night, once again, the NFL players are at it again, taking a knee when they should be standing proudly for the national anthem. Numerous players from different teams wanted to show their outrage. It's something most of them are unable to define. And again, he's trying to take an issue that these people, the players that have been protesting, feel and believe deeply, whether they've experienced it themselves or their communities have, make it into something entirely different. He's tried to make it about patriotism. For them, it's about racial injustice.
Right. And about himself. I mean, it always comes back to him. It'll be really interesting to see what happens this weekend. I mean, there is, frankly, a lot of concern with this Unite the Right rally coming to Washington. You know, this is a big city, and there'll be a big police presence out there. There's a lot of anticipation, obviously, because it's the 1-year anniversary of Charlottesville. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out this weekend.
And I want to.
Really best on those tweets. You know, the end of that second tweet, he said once again, he has before, that players should be suspended without pay. I just keep thinking we're talking about a private organization, a private institution. I mean, if employees at Walmart or Whole Foods were doing something that he didn't like, would he be out there publicly talking about how he thought that they should be punished, they should be not paid? Where's the line where the president's getting involved with a private company?
Let's talk about the president's campaign manager. His trial, the former campaign manager, Paul Manafort's trial, has resumed in Washington. But after a weird delay for basically all of the morning, and that comes on the heels of another interesting exchange that was shielded from the public. I want to bring in our reporter who's been on the scene covering this for us, Catherine Falders. And Catherine, I understand there's no explanation yet for what happened this morning, but it does seem like what's happening a little bit off screen, just slightly out of the view of the public, has become quite intriguing in the last couple of days in this trial.
Right, exactly. Whether they want to keep certain conversations they have with the judge privately sealed, which we saw as it related to an ongoing investigation, as I believe you referenced. And even today, Rick, they're on a 5-hour delay. Now, it didn't seem like anything too urgent. The judge came into the court, business as usual, called a member from the prosecution and the defense up to chat with him. When they do that, they play white noise in the courtroom, so you can't hear what they're discussing. But no explanation, even before the jury came in. So they finally called their first witness of the day to the stand at about 2:32 or 2:33. So here we are. It's only been about an hour, and the prosecution was expected to rest their case today. They haven't said anything differently, but as we've lost 5 hours, so I can't see how that happens.
And earlier in the week, when the prosecution's star witness, Rick Gates, was testifying, he was asked about specifically whether he'd had further conversations with Mueller's team about the Trump campaign, and that part created a little bit of a row in the courthouse. Catherine, is there speculation that this is about protecting something else that Mueller's got? There's something else that he may be up to that they aren't ready to show their cards on?
Maybe a little bit, but if you think about the terms of his plea agreement, he has to continue to cooperate with the special counsel, so he doesn't violate his plea agreement. We expect him to also appear in the other trial. So a little bit of that speculation, Rick, but nothing entirely unusual that we're seeing here.
All right, Catherine Falders, thanks for keeping an eye on it all. We appreciate you checking in with us right here. Let's talk about this pretty extraordinary thing that's happening in court over the last couple of days. A federal judge threatening contempt of court for the Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, because there was a deportation procedure, and it turned out that the federal government had actually put the woman at the center of this and her child on a plane out of the United States in the middle of this proceeding. The judge in this was very angry about it. They ended up having to bring them back. But Mary Alice, this is really something, quite a rebuke from the federal bench on something that's been going on.
Yeah, I think that this is because they've reached a boiling point. This wasn't the first time the federal government has done this. There's actually been a number of documented cases where federal judges have said an asylum claim should be able to go forward, not ruling one way or another, but saying the court should be able to take up the case. There's enough there to take up the case, only then to be told, oh, too bad, that they've already been deported. And this judge clearly just could not handle that trend anymore. Said this has gone too far, gone on too long. The federal government has been reprimanded by the courts for this behavior, for this practice, threatening to hold the Attorney General in contempt because that practice kept going on.
And an odd week on immigration for President Trump all around.
I mean, the other big thing that they're doing this week is they are readying a new rule to curb legal immigration. We hear him talk constantly about illegal immigration. Now they're going after people who are here legally, saying they want to create a rule that you can't get your green card, you can't become a United States citizen if in any time in the process you use social welfare advantages like Obamacare or CHIP.
A wide range of programs that they are eligible for.
They are not breaking any rules. Right.
They've been told they're okay to use those programs.
And it should not be surprising that legal immigrants would be taking advantage of these programs. You know, if they don't speak the language, they need help. They come over, they need help. It's part of the process. So. That is a really alarming push that they're going after.
And all in a week that Melania Trump's parents, legal immigrants themselves, become citizens of the United States, beneficiaries of so-called chain migration that the president rails about all the time, says he wants a lot changed around.
Right, and you know, her parents, obviously, he wants able-bodied people who have merit and he's a retired car salesman. So I mean.
There we go. All right, let's move on. Omarosa's got a book out, guys. It's coming out in a couple of days. We remember her from her time of The Apprentice. We remember her from her
Yes, we
time
do.
in the White House as a senior
Yes, we
advisor
do.
to the president. We were told repeatedly by the White House how big a deal she was, how important she was. Now that pieces of this book have begun to come out, and according to a bunch of published reports, she questions the president numerous times on racial issues, among other things. A lot
She
of
calls him a racist.
Calls him a
Basically,
racist,
reports the book says that she calls him a racist. Says he repeatedly used the N-word.
Although she doesn't say that she actually witnessed it herself, which
Right.
is, I think, an important caveat. But the White House is firing back. Sarah Sanders out with a statement basically saying Omarosa is sour grapes, a disgruntled employee that shouldn't be listened to any more than the media didn't listen to her when she was saying nice things before.
Right.
How much of a problem is this going to be for the president? Is he going to have to respond to Omarosa more directly?
Probably. Sour grapes is a weird argument, too, from the White House since she chose to leave. That's our understanding. She wasn't fired.
She's got an interesting tale around that as well, but yes.
But right. I mean, the president asked her to serve, and then she couldn't handle it, basically, couldn't stand it, and chose to go. I think that it brings up a lot of themes we talk about all the time. The best people being around this president, what their relationship with the president is, if they think that he is stable for the job. She is not the first person close to him to raise concerns like this, and that's what makes it newsworthy, is it feels like a part of a trend.
Yeah, I would just raise a little caution. We've talked about this in the newsroom today. I mean, there are already some factual inaccuracies pointed out in this book. Timelines don't match up. Statements don't match previous statements. People are denying things that are said. We have never, and Sarah Sanders has a point that we've never really looked at her in the media as a reliable character, and already some of these things are unreliable. But nevertheless, this will be the talk of the weekend in many ways. There are a lot of accusations in here. You know, she accuses him of eating paper, right? She walks in on him and he's eating paper.
There's a lot
that
of odd
actually
ones.
is in there.
Another one's going to be hard to fact check. But
yeah.
It's Friday, and it is Fact Check Friday,
That's
and
true.
Fishel is here with his Fact Check Friday for
That's
us
true. That's true.
to round it all out. So tell us what the president was a little bit factually challenged around this week.
So
Challenged.
It was a working vacation, and he had very few public events this week. But those thumbs don't take the week off. He was tweeting, and basically all our fact checks this week are about the tweets. The biggest one was about the California forest fires. I mean, they have record-breaking fires going there. It's a tough situation, and he basically accused California of mismanaging its water supply, saying they need to be diverting water from the rivers and not putting it out into the Pacific Ocean. But the big fact check here is California Fire says we don't need any more water. We have lakes all around the fires that we're using. One of the big fears is that he's really wading into an age-old gripe that the Central Valley farmers have, that they want more of this water for agriculture, and it's a fight with the fisheries and the environmentalists. They want to protect the salmon. So this was a big one, and it just seems like there might be an alternative motive there to sort of get himself involved in that.
And there's been no real explanation from the White House.
No, the like you said, the firefighters there and the state pushed back immediately, said that was not the case. But I think it also speaks to some pretty great insensitivities on the president's part. We're talking about people that lost their lives in California, thousands of structures destroyed. The pictures have been terrifying and heartbreaking this week. And the fact that the only tweet from the president was to kind of blame the state with this factually inaccurate statement felt a little heartless to me.
And he actually ordered the Commerce Department to sort of seize control of the water flow, which raised a lot. I mean, that goes a lot farther than the tweets, and that is what really has people concerned, that he could be unilaterally making decisions about what to do with the water in California.
And another topic I know you're tackling online today, sanctions. The president loves to rank things.
Right.
This is the biggest, the best, the boldest ever.
This is all about undoing the Iran deal, and when he undid the Iran deal, all the sanctions that the U.S. had previously lifted on Iran were to snap back into place. That happened this week. But then he called them the most biting sanctions ever. But they're all snapback sanctions that were already in place. And so consider that, and also consider the fact that the Europeans haven't lifted their sanctions. So that's what made it really worse when there was, global cooperation on sanctions. We don't have that now. It's just unilateral U.S. sanctions. To call it the most biting ever is not accurate.
All right, as we wind things to a close on a Friday, as we mentioned, it's a very big weekend here in Washington, a big weekend in Iowa as well with the Iowa State Fair. And Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, has been making the rounds in Iowa, letting it be known that he is considering a run for president. I'm not going to ask you guys for any 2020 handicapping on this one, but I will say that our colleague Jonathan Karl is going to interview him live here in Washington after this appearance. He's going to be talking to a big Democratic Party dinner tonight. And our colleague John Karl, 5 years ago today, interviewed someone else that no one thought was serious about running for president ever, a little businessman named Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see how it ends.
Yeah, and he became president, as I
think
recall.
that's right. I think that's right. Fact check true.
Yeah.
Fact check
that
true.
Is true.
But Avenatti is one of actually a few people in Iowa this weekend at that dinner, a number of Democrats that are already floating the possibility.
Mary Alice, what's your prediction about Avenatti? Could he be a real contender?
There's going to be like 25 Democrats that might run, so who knows?
Yeah.
And it's different in Iowa. You hit it off around a small table or a group of people in one kitchen or one backyard. It can make all the difference.
He does have that quality, though. It's sort of like the rhetorical answer to President Trump, like no fear, kind of New Yorker.
And people have already been impressed by his ability to
I think
throw it back.
And he's probably better known than about half of those 25 that you're
true.
mentioning right there. All right, that does it for this edition of The Briefing Room. For Justin Fischel and Mary Alice Parks, I'm Rick Klein. Thanks for watching here at ABC News Live.